Today is Monday, October 2nd. What to know about the last-minute deal to prevent a government shutdown, what it does and does not include, and how long the funding lasts before it might be down to the wire once again. Also, remembering one of the most prominent members of the U.S. Senate after she passed, and we now know who will be replacing her. Plus, who killed Tupac? A breakthrough in a case that's been baffling the hip-hop community for decades. A concerning problem with some of Apple's brand new iPhones. And another first for the GOAT, how Simone Biles made her mark on gymnastics this time. Those stories and even more news to know next. Welcome to The Newsworthy. All the day's news in around 10 minutes. Fast, fair, fun, and on the go. I'm Erica Mandy. Thanks so much for being here. You ready? Let's do this. Congress made a surprise breakthrough over the weekend to avoid a government shutdown. With just hours to go before the deadline Saturday night, lawmakers passed a measure to fund the government through November 17th. And yes, that means they'll have to come to another agreement to avoid a shutdown in less than 6 weeks. But at least for now, President Biden is calling this, quote, good news for the American people. House Speaker Kevin McCarthy and other House Republicans came up with this latest short-term bill. It mostly keeps spending where it is, plus adds on $16 billion in emergency disaster assistance. Though no more Ukraine aid, as President Biden had pushed for. And no more money for security at the U.S.-Mexico border, which most Republicans had pushed for. So expect those two issues to come up a lot more this week. To get the short-term spending bill passed, McCarthy actually had to do something he's been avoiding for weeks. He had to work with Democrats, getting them to support the measure, since he was having trouble getting enough support from his own party. And that meant getting rid of the big spending cuts that were included in the earlier GOP proposals. And in the end, the bill ended up getting more Democratic votes than Republican votes, even in the Republican-led House. Well, because of that, some ultra-conservative members of his party are now trying to kick him out of the speaker role. Republican Congressman Matt Gaetz says he's going to file a motion to remove him this week. McCarthy's response, quote, bring it on. Let's get over with it and let's start governing. A Democratic lawmaker is also under investigation over actions he took as his party was trying to delay a key vote on the spending bill. Congressman Jamal Bowman pulled a fire alarm in the Capitol, meaning the building had to be evacuated. Bowman says it was just a mistake, though, that he was rushing to cast his vote, couldn't get the door open, and thought activating the alarm would do the trick without a big commotion. Still, the Capitol Police have opened an investigation. And one Republican congresswoman drafted a bill to expel Bowman from Congress. To be continued. Today, former President Trump is expected to be in court for the start of a civil fraud trial in New York. This one accuses him of exaggerating his net worth by billions of dollars to trick banks and insurers, something Trump says is not true. Specifically, his lawyers are arguing that valuations are subjective and disagreements don't equal fraud. At some point during this trial, former President Trump is planning to testify in person along with his adult sons, Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump. The judge already ruled that all three of them and the Trump Organization as a whole are liable for fraud. And he canceled New York State business licenses for Trump's corporate entities. Now, in the full trial, the New York Attorney General is seeking $250 million in damages, and she wants to ban the Trumps from ever doing business in the state again. The trial is expected to take months. And remember, it's just one of at least 6 trials Trump faces, including 4 unrelated criminal cases. And there's actually a new development in one of those too. It's the Georgia case that accuses Trump and 18 others of interfering with the 2020 election. Bail bondsman Scott Hall became the first of Trump's co-defendants to make a deal with prosecutors. Originally, he was charged with 7 felonies, since investigators say he tried to breach election equipment in an attempt to find fraud. But as part of the deal, Hall only had to plead guilty to misdemeanor charges, and he's avoiding prison time. In return, Hall agreed to work with the prosecutor's office, a move that some say could help boost the case against Trump and other co-defendants. So stay tuned. The country is saying goodbye to one of the most prominent members of the U.S. Senate. Senator Dianne Feinstein died at 90 years old Thursday night, just hours after casting the last vote of her long, storied career that made her the longest-serving woman senator in American history. She was also the oldest member of the Senate and had faced some calls for her resignation before she passed over concerns about her health. Feinstein was known as a champion of liberal causes like environmental protection, reproductive rights, and gun control. But many remember her as a sensible lawmaker who would often reach out to Republicans and find middle ground. On Friday, senators from both parties gave tearful tributes at the Capitol. But it won't be long before they welcome someone new to take Feinstein's spot. California Governor Gavin Newsom picked LaFonza Butler to fill the seat until the next election. She's the president of Emily's List, which is a fundraising powerhouse dedicated to electing Democratic women candidates who favor abortion rights. And in choosing her, Newsom is following through on a promise to name a Black woman to the Senate if there were another vacancy. Butler will be the only Black woman serving in the U.S. Senate now. She could report to the Capitol as soon as tomorrow when the Senate is back in session. The U.S. Supreme Court is back in action. The new term begins today, and there are quite a few big cases on the docket. For example, there's a case about gun rights. The court will consider a law that keeps people from buying guns if they have restraining orders against them over domestic violence. Justices will have to decide whether or not that violates the Second Amendment. The High Court is also set to hear 2 cases about local officials who blocked some of their constituents on social media. The question there is, does blocking members of the public keep them from communicating with elected officials? And if so, is that a violation of their First Amendment rights? There are also some cases that could limit the power of federal agencies or force state officials to redraw voting maps. So stay tuned. More news is coming up, but first, a quick break for our sponsor, Honeylove. If you want to look and feel better in your clothes or get something great for the women in your life, Honeylove is where to go. From bras to shapewear to leggings, I am so impressed. I've gone through a lot of leggings, and my favorite pair now, hands down, are Honeylove's Legging 2.0. They are breathable and versatile. The material is super soft and smooth, and I feel so confident with the fit and support. I even love the side pockets. And if you didn't already know, Honeylove is also the go-to for shapewear. It's sculptwear that is actually comfortable. For me, they're great for making sure any dresses or skirts I wear hang just right. Oh, and Honeylove offers great bras. You can get a relaxed lounge option called the V-Bra. It offers the support of a traditional bra without the uncomfortable underwire. Treat yourself to the best bras, shapewear, and leggings on the market and save 20% off at honeylove.com/newsworthy. Use our exclusive link to get 20% off, honeylove.com/newsworthy. And after you purchase, they ask you where you heard about them. Please support our show and tell them we sent you. Tropical storm Felipe is causing some torrential rain and flash flooding in the Caribbean today. The storm is moving around the Leeward Islands right now, and meteorologists warn it could get even stronger by tonight. Then by the middle of the week, it's expected to grow into the season's 7th hurricane. The good news is, though, by that point, it's expected to be way out in the Atlantic Ocean and should not have any more impact on land. There are still 2 months left before the official end of the hurricane season. Nearly 30 years after one of the most influential rappers of all time died, police say they finally caught the person responsible. They arrested Dwayne Davis, saying he ordered Tupac Shakur's murder. Davis actually talked about the killing in his memoir called Compton Street Legend. In it, he admitted to being in the car where the shots were fired from and said he actually handed the gun to the gunman who killed Tupac. Investigators say that admission, along with what he said in media interviews, got them to reopen the case. And now they say they have proof that Davis actually orchestrated the whole thing after his nephew was involved with a fight with Tupac at a casino. Investigators say there were other people involved too, including the triggerman. But Davis is apparently the only one still living. Davis hasn't commented about the charges just yet, but he'll be in court in the coming days. Apple has been getting complaints about its iPhone 15 that's barely been out a week. Apparently, all 4 of the new models heat up quickly, becoming too hot to handle. And not just when they're being heavily used. Apple is blaming a software bug and other issues tied to popular apps like Instagram and Uber. It says it's working on an update now to keep the devices from getting too hot. And it says it's working with apps. Instagram already modified its app. Uber and others are still in the process of rolling out updates. In the meantime, Apple says the iPhones are safe to use as long as they don't display a temperature warning. But some people online are commenting that it hurts to hold the phones for too long, so you might still want to be careful before playing a game or streaming a long movie. American gymnast Simone Biles has once again redefined what's considered possible for her sport. Biles became the first woman to do the Yurchenko double pike in international competition yesterday. The extremely difficult and dangerous move includes a round-off, then back handspring onto the vault, and 2 flips in the air with straight legs. If a gymnast is even the slightest bit off, they're likely to land on their neck or head. That's why no other woman has done it, and few men have even tried it in competition. In Biles' case, she had a coach standing by in case anything went wrong. That meant a half-point deduction, but she still came out with one of the highest scores of the competition on any event. And now doing that skill during the vault event will be named after her. That's the 5th skill to bear the Biles name. That's it for the main news, so now it's time for Money Monday, when we talk about one interesting money-related news story. But first, support for today's episode comes from Lumi. Lumi is my new favorite deodorant. Whether you're looking for a more traditional deodorant for just your underarms, or you need something that's seriously safe for use anywhere on your body, Lumi is the new go-to. Its acidified formula is clinically proven to control odor-causing bacteria everywhere for a whopping 72 hours. And yes, I said everywhere because it is the first of its kind whole-body deodorant. If you didn't know, BO can come from bacteria all over the body. I love that it's aluminum-free and paraben-free. I use both the stick deodorant and I like having the deodorant wipes for travel or on the go, and the body wash smells great. In fact, Lumi's starter pack is perfect for new customers because it comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice like mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for our listeners, new customers get $5 off a Lumi starter pack with code NEWSWORTHY at LumiDeodorant.com. That equates to over 40% off your starter pack when you visit LumiDeodorant.com and use the promo code NEWSWORTHY. Okay, now back to Money Monday. Has your savings account run dry since the pandemic? If so, you're actually in the majority. The latest Federal Reserve study of household finances found only the richest 20% of Americans have more savings and more cash on hand now than they did before the pandemic started. But for the bottom 80% of households by income, bank deposits and other liquid assets were considerably lower this summer than they were in March of 2020 after adjusting for inflation. As for the reason, it's not exactly a big mystery. During the pandemic, people got payments from the government and they had fewer opportunities to spend. But since the economy reopened, Americans have been spending more and more, especially on experiences, despite inflation. And the trend does not seem to be slowing down anytime soon. Americans spent almost 6% more this past August than August of 2022, while companies like Delta Airlines and Ticketmaster have been raking in the cash. Now the question is this a fleeting trend or the new normal? For now, many economists say it's too soon to tell. All right, thank you so much for listening today and every day. And if you missed it, we released a bonus episode yesterday where I talk a bit about how the Newsworthy first got started in honor of International Podcast Day over the weekend. And of course, we'll be back with much more news to know tomorrow. For now, have a great day.